to the high teens. As we go through the night, we will start to see a bit more of a change, the colder air filtering south, and with the breeze strengthening coming in from the North Sea, we could well see a lot of mist and low cloud just shimmying its way inland across these eastern counties of England, eastern Scotland, and perhaps even into parts of the Midlands by dawn. Temperatures will fall away as well down into single figures, some frost likely across parts of Scotland. So a cool start to the weekend, a pretty drab one too over the Midlands and eastern England, and then this mist and low clouds should tend to melt away through the morning. Always the risk at this time of year that it could stick on some coasts, particularly from Yorkshire northwards, so maybe a bit of har and fret here and there, but for many should be a sunny Saturday. Quite as warm as today though, but we should still get temperatures across the south into the high teens, chilly on that east coast.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, it's 9:30, it's Friday the 4th of April, we're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and me, Nana Acquare.
A very good morning to you. Market meltdown. Trump's tariffs cause global stock markets to plunge by £2 trillion as Britain's braced for more financial chaos. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage offers the government a helping hand.
I repeat the offer. If the government wants me to help, I would help. And I would do it, even though they're a Labour government, I'd do it in the national interest.
The FTSE's plunging again today as Donald Trump says that our Prime Minister is very happy with the tariffs. Well, I was with the Prime Minister yesterday. That wouldn't be the word that I would choose. I'll bring you more details shortly.
Prince Harry fights back. The Duke of Sussex hopes the investigation into the charity will expose what he calls blatant lies of bullying claims.
Heat stirs the stink. The Birmingham bin strike enters its 4th week, and there's warm weather on the way.
Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham says that the current escalation is almost like a declaration of war on these striking bin workers, but concerns and growing frustrations over rodents and pests in the city and the smell.
Terror, madness, an Al-Qaeda mastermind linked to the 7/7 London attacks is set to walk free in Britain. Can terrorists ever be reformed? We'll be discussing that.
And a wasted generation. More than 500,000 people aged between 16 and 24 who aren't working or studying have never had a job. Meanwhile,
somebody please tell me why I'd ever get a job when this is my weekly universal credits that I get. I mean, why would I get a job? I get your monthly wage in a week.
Benefits influencer Whitney Aincoff brags about making $500,000 per year by cheating the welfare system and encourages others to do the same.
and royal root music. King Charles plays a carrot, yes, you heard that right, a carrot, among 350 guests at a Windsor Castle reception yesterday. Take a listen.
I mean, I love the royal family, but that's a bit...
He was just having a bit of fun, wasn't he? We've got our own carrots here, been practicing all morning on breakfast with Stephen as well. I mean, it was just a nice community reception. I didn't know you could turn a carrot into a recorder just by cutting a few holes in it, but here we are, and the King clearly was well up for getting involved.
I mean, someone was playing a Swede there as well.
Yeah, but it wasn't. There was a number of community choirs there. It was all about celebrating community music at Windsor Castle, and of course it was just nice to see him looking happy and healthy following last
Prince
week's
Harry, all this thing going on with Prince Harry?
Oh, yeah.
It feels like he's being, well, we shall see what happens when the Charity Commission looks for it. Well, listen, the Charity Commission, interesting bunch, I have to say. I've been through a lot of things that they did with the Ingram Moors, which I wasn't that impressed with their work. But one thing, they are pretty sharp on the role of trustees for the charity who actually run it. And if they have fallen short in any way, then Prince Harry could find himself in a bit of jam. In a sticky situation, bit of jam, honey, yeah?
Yes, his wife's jam and honey, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yes, which is sold out, by the way, on her website.
It depends how many she was selling, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, listen, send us your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 9:30. The top story, well, the FTSE 100 has dropped to a 3-month low after Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on UK exports to the US. Despite Britain facing the lowest rate, economists say the impact could still shave 0.5% off of UK growth in the coming years. The government says it's keeping its options open, though, with possible retaliatory tariffs on jeans and guitars. But Trade Secretary Jonathan Reynolds says there'll be a 4-week consultation before any action is taken. Sir Keir Starmer, meanwhile, insists he'll fight for the best deal, but experts warn the Chancellor may have to raise taxes or cut spending.
But I do think we do have...
Tensions are high in South Korea today after the court there upheld the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol. An emergency order has also been issued to maintain public safety, with police on standby in case of any violent protests. Earlier, tears of joy and sadness swept through crowds of both pro- and anti-Yoon supporters as they gathered in the streets. Yoon's short-lived martial law declaration in December had already plunged the country into crisis, and now a snap election has to be held within 60 days. Russia's battlefield advances in Ukraine have slowed to their lowest pace in 5 months. That's despite a new Kremlin campaign to conscript 160,000 more troops. It comes after Moscow rejected peace proposals, saying they don't address the root causes of the war. Donald Trump, meanwhile, has voiced fury at Vladimir Putin's stance, accusing him of stalling a ceasefire by demanding President Zelensky resigns. The Kremlin has also lashed out at a European plan to patrol Ukraine's border, with Russian state TV threatening to kill any foreign troops deployed there, with a warning message saying, "Come to Ukraine, all of you die." Here at home, Birmingham's bin strike is being called a public health crisis, with streets buried under weeks of uncollected rubbish. After a month of walkouts, government ministers have now stepped in, calling the mess totally unacceptable and demanding a deal has to be struck. The council's declared a major incident, bringing in extra crews to claw back control, but Unite is doubling down, accusing Labour leaders of slashing pay and declaring war on workers. The UK's last remaining blast furnaces could soon shut, within just days even, after Chinese owners have cut off vital raw materials. Jinzhai, which owns British Steel in Scunthorpe, rejected a £500 million government offer, causing talks to collapse. Union reps say orders for coal and iron ore have now been cancelled, meaning the furnaces could close even sooner than expected. Ministers are now weighing emergency options, including nationalisation, to save Britain's only source of virgin steel. And pubs, clubs and restaurants across the country could soon stay open later under a major shake-up of licensing rules. The government's giving new mayors new powers to overrule councils and boost nightlife in key areas like London, Manchester and Birmingham. The Chancellor says it's about cutting red tape and helping the hospitality industry to grow. The sector's already been hit with a £3.4 billion rise in cost this month alone. And ministers say they hope the change will lead to more late-night openings and alfresco dining across the UK. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's over to Cameron and Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Cameron Walker and me, Nana Aquia. Good morning to you.
Good morning. And you may have wondered why I just handed a carrot to Nana, and there is a very good reason for it. And that's because there's been some quite uplifting, let's say, royal news last night with the King at Windsor Castle. Take a look.
There's the King playing a carrot
Yes.
to an audience there? Because it's a root vegetable choir, aren't they, or something?
Yes, they've kind of whittled these local vegetables into recorders, and I did not have the king playing a carrot on my 2025 bingo card, but here we are. It was part of a London vegetable orchestra that he decided to join in with. A number of choirs who were performing to the king in the Waterloo Chamber of Windsor Castle last night. He just looked like he was in very good spirits, Nana, after the health scare of last week.
I'm quite happy to see the king having a bit of fun. There's somebody holding a Swede there as well. I'm not sure what instrument that would be, but it's got a carrot on top of it. It's very interesting. What is that? A Swede with a carrot on the side?
It does look like
He's
a
blowing
Swede.
it as though it's some sort of an oboe or something.
Yes,
Something
quite possibly.
like that, possibly. But yeah, I think it's nice to see the king like that. I don't know really the real sort of motivation for this particular event, but it's quite nice.
Celebrating local orchestras, the weird and wacky orchestras of London and the surrounding area.
Interesting, though, but lovely to see anyway. Well, let's move on. Britain is bracing itself for more market chaos today as the government considers its response to President Trump's tariffs.
But business leaders have urged Sir Keir Starmer against retaliating as Donald Trump claims the UK is happy with the tariffs imposed.
Yes, we have a very good dialogue going. And I think he was very happy about how we treated them with tariffs.
Well, see, this is the thing. Look, what's the problem? I don't think we should be retaliating at all. You've only got equal tariffs to what they were before, plus a 25% tariff on the car industry, but that's the high-end car industry. Those people have money. If you're going to tax anybody, tax the rich.
Well, I was going to say, Jaguar Land Rover cars are not exactly cheap, are they? I think
Neither
perhaps...
are Bentley and all those sort of cars.
Yeah.
So it's like these people won't notice it. But one good thing out of this, JCB, it's the first big British firm planning to boost production in the United States in response to Trump's tariffs. Will we see more? That is the question. Well, our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, is here in the studio with us. Catherine, well, is this good news or bad news? And you said something about Keir Starmer. Trump said he was happy. You said you spoke to Keir Starmer. What did he say?
Oh, well, first of all, is it good news or bad news? It's definitely not good news because markets hate uncertainty. Donald Trump, understandably, wants companies to be building things in America, American jobs, American growth. But for the rest of the world, look, this is going to be very, very difficult. We've not seen anything like this for well over 100 years. In the Great Depression 100 years ago, America put these huge tariffs on. Many people think it made things even worse. So, yes, yesterday I was up in Chesterfield where Labour were launching their local election campaign. No one wanted to talk about that. No one wanted to hear about potholes or the NHS. It was all about tariffs. And the Prime Minister, I certainly wouldn't say they are happy about this. I mean, he did say yesterday very clearly it's going to have an economic impact. They are relieved that it isn't worse than it might have been. They're disappointed that they didn't get this trade deal that they'd hoped to get before now over the line. They're still hopeful that they might get it in the next few weeks, but they are working out what to do if it doesn't happen. But you say, Nana, that it's good news about JCB. In Texas, they're already building a factory. They've now decided to make it twice as big. Well, sure, that's great for America, but we want people building stuff and making stuff here.
We have 10% import, so...
Yeah, but we don't have a trade...
But that makes us more attractive from the EU, which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, sure, we do have a Brexit benefit. Of course, the government don't want to dwell on that, given that the Prime Minister was sort of Mr Remainer-in-Chief. But, listen, we have a balanced trading relationship with the US. They don't have a trade deficit with us, and they're slapping 10% tariffs. Now, sure, it could be worse.
But that's what it was before. So, like on Trump's little board there, because we've got your local reciprocal tariffs, he's got 10% for the UK and 10% again.
No, I'm sorry. That is... The 10% is a baseline that they are putting on literally everybody. We don't charge anything like 10%.
Even some islands which only have penguins living on them, for example, have been charged 10%.
Exactly. Basically, the way they've arrived at these figures is that they've taken the US's trade deficit with a country, they've divided that by how much the US imports, and then they've cut it in half in terms of what we're going to give. So the column on the left, this is not what tariffs are actually being charged.
Right.
That's what they are saying, but they're using all sorts of things. They say indirect trade or whatever, but there's a fundamental calculation so that Donald Trump can say we're being very, very generous. That is highly, highly questionable.
Catherine, can I ask you about this indicative list that the government published yesterday? Basically, a load of goods and services which we could potentially charge for if the US wanted it. What's the government's strategy here? Is this meant to be seen as a threat, that if we don't get a trade deal between the US and the UK, we could impose these tariffs on the US?
I think it is a message that we want the deal. We've been very cooperative. We're playing very, very nicely in a way that the EU and Macron are not. But they have to have a plan B because they're desperate for the deal. What if we don't get the deal? What are they going to do? And when that list came out, I was scrolling. 450 pages, the list of all of the things that businesses are being asked to give their views about. But the warnings are that if we retaliate, that's going to make things even worse. That's what businesses are saying. Don't escalate this. But, you know, I think it's going to be very bumpy. You can understand where Trump is coming from.
There's no point really us retaliating. I think people have taken the United States for granted the low levels of tariffs. I think he's acting in the best interests of his country, for him.
Nana, the US has become the richest country in the world off the back of all of this. So Donald Trump saying that we're being...
About the UK, we started off pillaging from all over the world, stealing from other countries.
But why is the US so wealthy then, if it's been so ill done by for decades? Why is the US so wealthy?
Well, probably because it's so vast as well. Economies of scale, really, haven't they?
Meanwhile, all the stock markets are crashing. But, Catherine, we've got to leave it there.
Thank you,
Catherine. See you again a little bit later in the show.
I'll speak to you again, yes.
Still to come, thousands of fancy outfits will be on display at Aintree Racecourse for Ladies' Day.
Yes, but up next, we're going off to Birmingham, where the incoming hot weather, 22 degrees, won't mix well with the rubbish lining the streets.
Well, here we are in Birmingham. The rubbish continues to pile on these street corners, and the United General Secretary Sharon Graham says it feels like a declaration of war on the striking bin workers. Government ministers met with the council yesterday, but so far no new changes on whether this dispute will end. With the hot weather today, the impact could well be even more here in the city of Birmingham. But let's get you weather now for the top European destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
After some very strong winds in recent days in the Canaries, things looking a little calmer as we head into next week. Plenty of sunshine over the central Med. There's a weather front approaching Madeira. That'll bring some rain later on through the weekends. Plenty of showers over northern Spain on Saturday, but much of the south of Spain dry and sunny. Some of those showers could affect Barcelona. Plenty of showers across Greece and Turkey as well. Quite a sunny Saturday for Italy. Temperatures rising in Barcelona by Sunday before turning colder next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Nottinghamshire, the A60 is closed in both directions along Leeming Lane South in Mansfield after an accident causing queues. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is blocked eastbound where a lorry caught fire between junctions 11 and 12 from Findon to Islip, causing queues towards Thrapston. In London, the A13 is closed westbound at the junction with West India Dock Road near to the Rotherhithe Tunnel after an accident last night, causing long delays towards the closure and as you divert. And on the M25 from Kenton to Essex, it's down to 2 out of 4 lanes anti-clockwise, with the left-hand Dartford tunnels closed because of an accident causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Do you know what the little green huts dotted around central London are? I went to Grosvenor Gardens earlier this week to visit one.
Excuse me, sir. There's a green building there.
Yeah.
Have you any idea what it's for?
No idea. No. What is it? Do you know?
Dotted around central London are elegant green huts, which are as distinctive of the metropolis
as the red and blue roundels that stand above underground stations. These little structures are celebrating 150 years of gracing the urban landscape. But I wonder how many people notice them or could tell you what purpose they serve. Do you have the London knowledge to say what their use is? Hello, are you the famous Sue?
I'm Sue, yes. Lovely to meet you.
Oh, lovely to see you. Now, how long have you worked here?
This October will be 22 years.
And what is this?
So this is a taxi hut that was put up in the 1800s. There were several of them plotted around London, but sadly I think there's only about 13 left at the moment.
John, do you find yourself using the taxi shelters very much?
You know, the food's good, it's cheap, and, you know, you've got all of your friends in here and people that you have a little bit of banter with. You know, have a nice bit of food and drink and a bit of fun. During the day, if you know, where you can't stop on the streets for parking restrictions, the shelters, we've all got our own parking.
Is it a good amenity for you?
Fantastic. The food, everything is fantastic. The boys, the light-hearted badinage, the entertainment, and most of all, the girls who serve us. How they put up with it, I don't know.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Put it up.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10 this Friday morning. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Cameron and Nana. Next, the Birmingham bin strike has entered a fourth week. As fears grow, the piles of rubbish could cause a public health crisis.
And that is as union bosses have accused the government of dragging their heels over the situation. Well, we're joined now by GB News' West Midlands reporter Jack Carson live in Birmingham. Jack, what more can you tell us?
Well, the rubbish continues to pile up on the streets here all across the city. This all-out strike, as you were mentioning, now 4 weeks into that, meaning some people haven't had any rubbish collected for all of that time. Contingency plans in place now since the council declared a major incident earlier in the week, but compared to the usual 200, if not more, vehicles that are usually on the roads picking up rubbish across this city, it's only 90 for the contingency plan, and that's if they can get out the depot. We've seen striking picket line workers staging protests in front of a lot of those lorries, meaning that those lorries are late and can therefore be in their areas where they're meant to be picking up rubbish a lot less. There are concerns around public health, as you were mentioning as well. We're a mere 100 metres from a nursery here. You can see the state of the pile of rubbish behind me, and therefore the impact that that has on public health, the concerns around public health and increased rodents, which we've seen across the city since these strikes at the same time. United General Secretary Sharon Graham has written to Angela Rayner this week, saying that it feels like a declaration of war on these workers. And the council leader John Cotton says that he thanks the residents for their continued patience and says that they've made a fair and reasonable offer to unite.
Birmingham for us, thank you very much. Well, we're joined now by the former Labour MP for Birmingham, Khalid Mahmood. Good morning to you, Mr Mahmood. Birmingham City Council has now declared a major incident in a bid to basically increase collections of bins. Has that had any effects? Because from where we're sitting and from what our reporter Jack was just explaining, there's still piles of rubbish in Birmingham.
Well, as it's been said already, this is a public health issue. It's untenable for the people of Birmingham to continue in this way. No, it hasn't had much effect, and it's just absolutely disgraceful that we're in this position. I think the unions and the council should have sorted out this some time ago. Part of the problem is that we have commissioners that had them since Michael Gove put them in almost 3 years ago now. And the council is hamstrung in any discussions they have with the union because they have to run these issues past the commissioners. And what's behind all of this is the commissioners are sitting there totally blinded from everything. They're not the ones who've been discussed in the press. So until they give a go-ahead to go move forward, it doesn't happen. What the ministers coming yesterday of speaking to Birmingham need to do now is to get rid of these commissioners, give the autonomy to Birmingham to negotiate this and move forward, because this has to be dealt with. I think now either you bring the army and clear this rubbish out because it is a serious public health issue, but certainly what you need to do quickly is give the autonomy to Birmingham to negotiate this and move the commissioners completely out of Birmingham now.
But something needs to be done right now. So all that negotiating they can do in a while. You said bring the army in. If you, where is the MP on this? I haven't heard anything from the Labour MP for Birmingham. We've got about 30 seconds.
Well, a number you've heard from Preet Gill, I'm sure she has a view on this. A number of the people that have been invited had made comments. So I think those that have been invited to different channels have made comments. Nobody's turned away from any of the media. People have written to the council to say that we want to move forward. But the issue here in Birmingham is that the reason why I'm calling for the army is that until we get rid of the commissioners, nothing's going to be able to move forward. So what we need to do is get the government to move away with the commissioners.
All right, Khalid Mahmood, thank you very much. Coming up, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage tells GB News his thoughts on Donald Trump's new trade tariffs. Don't miss it. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunshine to come for most places today. Feeling quite warm in that sunshine, although there is a cool breeze blowing, and that cool breeze making it feel quite cold on some of these North Sea coasts. We've seen a few showers overnight across parts of Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a possibility of one or two through the morning, and it is quite cloudy across parts of the west as well, but that cloud should tend to clear away, and any showers certainly disappearing. And then it's a dry day with plenty of sunshine. It will be quite fresh on these North Sea coasts with the breeze picking up, but inland temperatures getting up to 21, maybe 22 degrees Celsius. Feeling a little cooler than that, though, because of that breeze. But for much of the south, the warmest day of the week. It will turn a little cooler because colder air is pushing down across the northeast through this evening. That will be quite noticeable, that wind again through the evening time, despite many places having a lovely looking evening. Plenty of sunshine around. It's still quite warm across these western areas with temperatures through the evening rush hour still up into the high teens. As we go through the night, we will start to see a bit more of a change. The colder air filtering south, and with the breeze strengthening coming in from the North Sea, we could well see a lot of mist and low cloud just shimmying its way inland across these eastern counties of England, eastern Scotland, and perhaps even into parts of the Midlands by dawn. Temperatures will fall away as well, well down into single figures, some frost likely across parts of Scotland. So a cool start to the weekend, a pretty drab one too over the Midlands and eastern England, and then this mist and low cloud should tend to melt away through the morning. Always the risk at this time of year that it could stick on some coasts, particularly from Yorkshire northwards. So maybe a bit of har and fret here and there, but for many, should be a sunny Saturday. Quite as warm as today, though, but we should still get temperatures across the south into the high teens, chilly on that east coast.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So the parents in the right, or should they really be taking their kids out during holiday, during end of term break?
Good morning. Yes, it's a real interesting one, but I think there are a few problems with it. There are already 443,000 absences per year. And actually, if they did get their policy and everyone could have this time off, holiday companies aren't here for the fun of it. They're going to just up the prices all year round. And I think that's what this is about. A lot of parents want to grab an absolute bargain. And it's kind of selfish because a holiday is a choice. It's not a necessity. One of the other things they talk about is SEND children also need to have time off. Now, I am a mum of a child who has a disability, so I understand the complex needs with that, but that's a given. You know, that's something to take up with a local authority. It's you're allowed to have time off if your child has a medical condition. So, yeah.
It's obviously quite a divisive issue, isn't it? It does separate people into two camps. There's people who want to take their kids out during term time to save a bit of cash, and then there's people who think that children should be in school when they're supposed to be in school. How do you think they'll get on with this campaign? Do you think they'll have any success?
Well, I don't think they will, to be honest with you. I think it's too small. And the other thing is it's quite disruptive on the classroom. If you can imagine, I already play catch up because my son has half a day off a week. So I can imagine if that's going on all year round with all the children, trying to keep track of it, sounds an absolute nightmare to me. I mean, personally, I'd rather just go away on holiday on my own without my child and have some relaxation. So that would be my advice to them. Get the granny in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Friday the 4th of April, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and Nana Okoye.
Good morning to you. Now, there's a market meltdown. Donald Trump's tariffs caused global stock markets to plunge by £2 trillion as Britain is braced for more financial chaos. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage offers the government a helping hand.
I repeat the offer. If the government wants me to help, I would help, and I would do it. Even though they're a Labour government, I do it in the national interest.
That's right, Farage offers help to the government. Tariffs start tomorrow, but will they accept his offer? I doubt it.
Meanwhile, Harry fights back. The Duke of Sussex hopes the investigation into his charity will expose what he calls blatant lies of the bullying claims.
A wasted generation. More than 500,000 people aged between 16 and 24 who aren't working or studying have never had a job. Meanwhile,
somebody please tell me why I'd ever get a job when this is my weekly universal credits that I get. I mean, why would I get a job? I get your monthly wage in a week.
I think a lot of viewers are going to be very upset with what she just said. Benefits influencer Whitney Ainscough brags about making £500,000 per year by cheating the welfare system and encourages others to do the same.
Terror madness. An Al-Qaeda mastermind linked to the 7/7 London attacks is set to walk free in Britain. Can terrorists ever be reformed? We'll be debating that.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Royal Navy warship HMS Duncan hosts a street party to mark 1 month until the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Dame Kelly Holmes and Ross Kemp will be speaking at the event soon.
Royal root music. King Charles plays a carrot. Yes, a carrot among 350 guests at a Windsor Castle royal reception. Take a listen. Well, also woke Westminster Council and their white privilege test. I did it. It's in the Telegraph. I did it. Turns out that, hey, I have white privilege. I mean, who'd have guessed it? Who'd have thunk it?
I know. I was off to a standing start because I'm a white male, so I was plus 15 points.
Yeah, as soon as you click that, I mean, I was then in the most privileged category. And I thought, well, I'll just change one of them to white male. Suddenly it just went off the scale.
But I don't shop at Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's.
No,
Other supermarkets are available.
Do.
Yes.
I do. Those are some of the questions on the stereotypical, I would say, woke, white, privileged Westminster test to find out whether you are have white privilege.
Well, yeah, Westminster Council, of course, trying to make sure their workforce is inclusive, but of course it has been met with some criticism as well, and we'll be debating that a little bit later on this hour.
You should take the test. Listen, send us your thoughts, send us your comments, gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you at 3 minutes past 10. The top story, well, markets are tumbling this morning, with the FTSE 100 falling to a 3-month low after Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs. The government's warning of a new era in world trade after the president's decision to impose 10% tariffs on British imports. Speaking earlier, Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the return to US protectionism is a blow to British consumers and that all options are on the table.
We have been absolutely clear that all options are on the table as we ensure the national interests of the British people, who will be very concerned at this time about how this affects the bottom line for them and their economic welfare. We will put their national interests first.
Well, despite that, Donald Trump claims Sir Keir Starmer was very happy with the move.
We have a very good dialogue going. He's good. Sorry. I think he was very happy about how we treated them on tariffs. Sir.
Ministers, though, say they will stay cool and calm, but retaliatory levies on US goods like whiskey, jeans and guitars are being considered. Meanwhile, the Trump administration says the US will stay in NATO despite rising tensions over those tariffs and foreign policy. At a tense summit in Brussels, the US called on allies to double defence spending to 5% of GDP. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reaffirmed America's support for the alliance as foreign ministers wrapped up 2 days of talks. But Denmark's foreign minister slammed Trump's attempt to buy Greenland, calling it a breach of sovereignty. And that row comes after the US scaled back a planned visit to the island following backlash from Danish and Greenlandic leaders. Tensions are high in South Korea today after the court there upheld the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol. An emergency order has been issued to maintain public safety, with police on standby in case of violent protests. Tears of joy and sadness swept through crowds earlier of pro- and anti-Yoon supporters as they gathered on the streets. Yoon's short-lived martial law declaration in December had already plunged the country into crisis, and now a snap election must be held within 60 days. And Russia's battlefield advances in Ukraine have slowed to now their lowest pace in 5 months, despite a new Kremlin campaign to conscript 160,000 more Russian troops. It comes just hours after Moscow rejected peace proposals, saying they don't address the root causes of the war. Donald Trump has also voiced his fury at Vladimir Putin's stance, accusing him of stalling a ceasefire by demanding President Zelensky's removal. And the Kremlin has also lashed out at a European plan to patrol Ukraine's border, with Russian state TV threatening to kill any foreign troops deployed there. Back here at home, Birmingham's bin strike is being called a public health crisis, with streets buried under weeks of uncollected rubbish. After a month of walkouts, government ministers have now stepped in, calling the mess totally unacceptable and demanding a deal be struck. The council's declared a major incident, bringing in extra crews to claw back control. But Unite is doubling down, accusing Labour leaders of slashing pay and declaring war on workers. The UK's last remaining blast furnaces could shut within days after Chinese owners cut off vital raw materials. Jinjai, which owns British Steel in Scunthorpe, rejected a £500 million offer from the government, causing talks to collapse. Union reps say orders for coal and iron ore have now been cancelled, meaning the furnaces could close even sooner than expected. Ministers are now weighing emergency options, including nationalisation, to save Britain's only source of virgin steel. And the UK is reportedly in talks to sell 2 of its frontline warships to Brazil, despite rising global threats and promises, of course, to boost defence spending. HMS Bulwark and HMS Albion, vital for landing Royal Marines ashore, are being scrapped to save cash, even though one of them just had an expensive refit. Brazilian media say a deal's already been signed to assess the ships ahead of a purchase. Experts warn, though, the sale could leave Brazil with stronger amphibious firepower than the UK. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in around half an hour's time. Now, though, it's over to Britain's Newsroom.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Cameron Walker and me, Nana Akweer. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts and comments. Michael made this point. He said the point about an island with penguins is an irrelevant smart Alex point. 10% applies to everywhere, with or without penguins. Come on, GB News. That's the sort of silly comment we expect from Guardian readers, not GB News presenters. I didn't say it.
Sorry, I think it was me actually that brought up. So hold my hands up.
It wasn't me. You said presenters. There's only one of us that said it. It wasn't that.
You might prefer this one, though, because Mick's been in touch, and he said this tariff stuff could be a real Brexit bonus, because, of course, our tariffs are a lot lower than the EU's is. And Mick says retaliation by cutting all tariffs on the US and taking EU trade from them.
Exactly. Well, listen, Andy T, he says to me, I agree with Nana on tariffs. I just don't see what the issue is. Trump has a job to do, and he's getting on with it, but I do worry that Labour are just not up for the job. They need to start being more innovative and adaptive to what this country needs to grow, regardless of what the US does. And Shelley says something similar. She says, Nana, good morning. You're right, Nana. Why should Trump give it all away? He's doing the right thing by his people, and good luck to him. I wish ours would study their own more. He's given us the lowest tariff. What more do people want? Well done, Nana.
And a number of you have been getting in touch, actually, about Birmingham's bin strike dispute, offering your solutions. So if you remember in the headlines, we were talking about more than 500,000 16 to 24-year-olds not working or studying. Well, Mary says, well, why don't you get them to start throwing the rubbish bags onto bin lorries? That's a good point.
Well, exactly.
Martin suggests we use the illegal asylum seekers to clear up Birmingham streets as well. I wonder if the Labour Council will catch on to that one.
Well, maybe it's a job, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with that. It's slightly demeans the position of somebody who, in a way, because it's like almost like a punishment, but it's not. It's a hard job. Right, Paula says this one, white privilege test. If you are a white criminal with terrible parents and no money and take holidays on religious dates, you will be just fine. This is the test in the Telegraph from Westminster Council. If you are white and a white upstanding citizen who's worked hard all your life, you'll be called a racist. How messed up is this? Synopsis below from GBN article. She says, participants gain or lose points based on various factors in their lives. Yes, it's true. Points are awarded if parents read to you as a child, if you drive a new car, or have ever been stopped by the police. And being a white male scores the highest at plus 15 points. Points are deducted if you take annual leave for religious holidays, live in rented accommodation, or have a disability.
Gosh.
Honestly, what a ridiculous thing that is.
I feel like it's going to divide a lot of people, you know, and I think there's a fine balance between perhaps, you know, giving someone an opportunity, but also meritocracy, because how are people going to be motivated if they know that, you know, the way they look or their upbringing is going to have a detrimental impact on their job prospects, for example?
Well, I suppose they might say that's role reversal, but I say, look, we're equal, so let's be equal, let's ignore the fact that someone's a different colour or whatever it is about them, and focus on what they can bring to the table, which is what Martin Luther King asked and said, content of character, not colour of skin. But moving on, 11 minutes after 10 o'clock, Britain is bracing itself for more market chaos today as the government considers its response to President Trump's tariffs.
But business leaders have urged Sir Keir Starmer against retaliating as Donald Trump claims the UK is happy with the tariffs imposed.
Yes, we have a very good dialogue, and I think he was very happy about how we treated them with tariffs.
In the meantime, JCB is the first big British firm planning to boost production in the US in response to Donald Trump's tariffs.
And in an exclusive interview with our political editor, Christopher Hope, leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, says there's a deal from 2016 that could be revived.
Well, he said he'd put tariffs on. He was elected to do that. And, of course, he's put us in the lower tier, the lowest tier. Interestingly, EU 20%, UK 10%. I can tell you this. I sat down face-to-face with Trump in 2017. He said, we want to do a deal with you guys. I want to show the world I believe in trade if it's fair, if it's right, if it's good for both sides. But, of course, we didn't do a deal. Why? Because the Conservatives didn't take us out of the European Union. We went through the whole of 2017, 2018, 2019, and on it went. And by the time we'd finally left the European Union, frankly, it was all a bit too late. We did, however, do a lot of negotiation. 2/3 of a deal is there on the table. And Jonathan Reynolds saying, no, we're not going to retaliate. We're going to look to ways not just to erase tariffs, but to go further towards a trade deal.
Well, we're joined now by political editor Christopher Hope. Christopher, good morning. What more can you tell us?
Good morning, Cameron and Nana. Yeah, it sounds quite interesting there that Nigel Farage is supporting the government's attempts to get a wider trade deal. There was one on the table there. Also, an interview which aired last night on GBN Tonight with me. He made clear he wants to offer support, any help. He says he knows most of the cabinet amongst Trump's team. Any kind of background, backdoor support or back channels support, he'll do what he can. But so far, the government has failed to ask him for any support. But that's been Nigel Farage's story for the past 3 decades. The establishment doesn't want to use him, despite the fact he is a patriot and wants to help this country. And I think that's maybe an error by some people in power, both Tory and Labour. He's keen to help, although he did say to me he hadn't spoken to anyone in the Trump White House since January, since the Trump team came in. So it's more of a personal relationship. But a big weekend. I mean, these tariffs start tomorrow, April the 5th. Right now, Jonathan Reynolds and Whitehall officials are working very hard to try and mitigate the impact on as many as 417 pages of items. I mean, we don't know where we're going. The markets are tumbling. Very, very uncertain times here, and how it plays out over the next few days is vital. You heard there from JCB, of course, a privately owned digger maker. They're moving some more production to the US. Others will do that. We might see more dumping in this country. That could have an effect on jobs. Very, very uncertain times. We'll be hearing more from the government at 11:30. I'll bring you the news, the first of that, around 12:30 on GB News. In my podcast overnight, we spoke to João Vale de Almeida. He's the former EU ambassador to the UK, the US and United Nations, and he had this advice on how to deal with these tariffs.
What would you do now if you were advising Ursula von der Leyen? I would tell her to stay cool, but stay firm, and react in a smart way. Our purpose should be to go back to where we were before in terms of not escalating a tariff war. But if that is what the US wants, we'll have to play. We'll have to play again. But I think first objective, let's talk and let's try to scale things down. If that doesn't work, I think we'll have to respond in a robust way.
So that's João Vale de Almeida. He's a very, very experienced EU diplomat. Concerns around the world, of course. We saw Ursula von der Leyen making her concerns there yesterday. And I think that point that one of our viewers said to you, Nana, is right, that in a sense, we have got a chance here. We've got preferential trading terms now with the US against the European Union. That is a Brexit dividend, a Brexit benefit. But will this government grab that and run with it? Or, as other governments in the past have done, treat Brexit as a problem to be solved rather than an opportunity to be grasped?
Well, let's hope they grasp it. Christopher Hope, thank you very much. That's Christopher Hope there at our GB News Westminster studio. I just find that it's such... We have an opportunity. That's what I pointed out to Catherine. I did say that, that the big thing here is that Trump has positioned us in a better place than the EU, and that is a huge advantage. So instead of cozying up to the EU, we are now a threat in a sense to the EU. So will they want to cozy up to us? Not with the 10% tariff, they won't.
Well, no, but also I've noticed a difference between the way the UK government and the EU have retaliated on this issue. The UK government saying they're going to keep clear and level heads and not overreact, yada, yada, yada. The EU, on the other hand, is really starting to talk about quite serious tariffs against the United States. So clearly, it looks like there's some strategy in the UK government to cosy up to the United States,
well, let's hope
which they can do because of Brexit.
Because he was a Ramona-in-chief, wasn't he, Keir Starmer? And that's not to be insulting to him, but to point out that he wanted to have another referendum, and he was not happy with the fact that we voted to leave, as were many others, also on the Conservative side as well. So this is a problem, but will he realise now that it's over? We don't want to go back in there, even if you did. I mean, can you say how you voted? Would you say? Would you dare?
I'm not going to say on this show, Nana, but what I will say is Nigel Farage on his...
to leave.
Did you vote to leave?
Absolutely.
Fair enough. I'll remain impartial. But the Nigel Farage interview with Christopher Hope there, Nigel was saying that actually there was a deal on the table with the former President Trump in his first term back in 2016, but because the Conservatives took so long to get Brexit over the line, that deal was, left out in the cold.
Yeah,
Could it be revitalised?
No, I like to be honest and straightforward so people know where I'm coming from. So I'll tell you, I voted to leave, and I think I wish this country would just grab this opportunity with both hands. For here is another opportunity you could grab, because it's the final day to see how you could win our massive spring giveaway and get a designer handbag, designer watches, and an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash.
Lovely. Make sure you don't miss your chance to make it all yours, and here's all the details you need.
It's the final day to see how you can win big this spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Hurry, lines close at 6 p.m. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. We had one of our winners in the studio earlier. But up next, Westminster City Council tells staff to take a white privilege test and see... And I'll tell you my results in just a moment. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, how fierce is the competition to become Lord Sugar's next business partner? Well, our final guest today has been in the throes of that competition.
Goodness me, yes. Liam Snellan is taking part in the current series of The Apprentice, and he worked as an electrician for 10 years, and now he's turning his hand to making comfortable yet fashionable workwear. So there you go.
Well, I just want to ask what it's like to be a contestant on The Apprentice, having been a fan of the show for years prior. Is it a bit weird?
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't say it's weird. I feel like you can manifest anything in life, and over 10 years ago I said that I wanted to be on the show with no real business at the time and not knowing how I was going to do it. But as I said, I manifested it, and I'm here and on the show.
You manifested it? How did you manifest it then? Go on.
Well, you just need to vision that something has already happened, you just haven't attained it yet, so you just need to attain the frequency to achieve that thing, and that's obviously what I've done, and it's my time.
Liam, are you still on the show?
I am still on the show.
How far did you make it?
So, well, you have to wait and see. You have to wait and see. Obviously...
Could be the winner.
Yeah, could be. So we had a little bit of banter about a hot sauce. I was licking a plate, which was a bit embarrassing. So we was doing an advertisement for our hot sauce brand, and we didn't actually have the bottle, so we needed to sort of think on our feet and make an advert without having the product.
How long are you in the boardroom. Obviously, it has to be sliced down to an hour, but you must be in there for a long time, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So obviously, you're in there a lot longer than what it shows. You know, it's such a small part of the show when really you're in there for like up to a couple of hours. So it's a really intense period. Like, they definitely go into all of the task and the good things and the bad things that happened, and then obviously the key highlights get shown to the public.
The People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This Sunday on GB News Breakfast, we've got a special treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon, this Sunday from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
Right, good morning. 23 minutes after 10 o'clock. Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and me, Nana Aquir. Joining us, medical writer Dr. Renee Hunderkamp, also broadcaster and commentator Judita De Silva, who have all taken the white privilege test. Renee?
How did we score?
I'm very privileged.
Are you?
I'm convinced it was the designer handbag.
This is the white privilege test, by the way, in the Telegraph. Westminster Woke Council. Judita, did you do the white privilege test?
I did, and I'm average.
You're average,
I'm
so
neither unprivileged nor privileged. I'm right in the middle.
Which is quite funny, really.
Yeah.
I would say I was slightly above average, but I was at a disadvantage because it's plus 15 points if you're a white male on the off. So there you go. But I do not shop at, let's say, some of the high-end supermarkets, and I don't own a property yet either. So, yeah, that brought me down a little bit.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
So you're still a white male, so that's the bit where you went askew.
Exactly, yeah.
Can I come on, Anna. Do you have white privilege?
I think I do. I think I do. Listen, I went to private school run by nuns, Sisters of the Holy Sepulchre. First job out of university was Kiss 100, then Capital Radio. Then I worked at the Sky, BBC. I've had my own shows here and there. I went to a private convent school. My parents lived in the States and I flew back and forth for school. I think I have.
You really used that whiteness, didn't you?
I have. Look at me. How has it fed me like this? My parents, they're both black.
Well, the head of this woke council, Stuart Love, who's the chief executive, says he feels guilt for growing up as a white child during the apartheid in South Africa.
Well,
that's his motivation for doing this.
I can understand
that.
I can understand that because that was specifically an area where there was apartheid, where one was deliberately elevated among another. But he shouldn't bring that here because then you create that situation.
And also, why should
the other way
feel
around
guilty about something over which he had no control?
See, he
was a child.
I absolutely abhor that excuse for the same reason that
he was born there.
As a human being, if I see injustice done, I feel compelled to speak up on the rudimentary level of a human being.
It doesn't mean you should feel guilty about it. There's a difference.
I do feel guilty if I'm walking in this hot dead of winter and I see a homeless person on the street. Empathy overwhelms me and I feel guilt that, oh gosh, I should be more grateful for what I have. Look at what could have been there but for the grace of God.
That's not guilt.
That's where it comes from. Well, I define it as a kind of guilt. So he's saying that you existed in a country with an unnatural state of existence that wasn't imposed on indigenous people. You should feel
But that's not me saying that I feel guilty because we used to send children up chimneys. But I couldn't control that. It was nothing to do with me.
If you choose not to feel guilty, you don't have to.
I
But if
don't
someone
feel
does,
guilty
you
about
don't
the
say
slave
to the person
trade
who feels guilty
because I
that
had no
don't see why
control.
you do so. That comes from a point of empathy and humanity, not saying that I did it to them.
Can I just stop you there and just say he is bringing something that was very bad into this country and turning it the other way round. So that's not good, right? So instead, what he's saying now is that we're going to now slightly privilege another, in a way, so to show you that you have a privilege because you're white. That's not right. You're actually recreating and then indoctrinating a level of what is believed to be a privilege in this by doing this. And I think you need to forget about the colour. I think we need to forget about the colour.
What I've got is that he felt it's basically internal documents which have been leaked to the Telegraph, and he said he feels guilt for growing up as a white child during apartheid, and also that he's socially aware of injustice. And I think people are pointing out...
so that's the context that he's given. He's not bringing that here. He's saying that he feels he has a particular perspective. First of all, this test is ridiculous.
It is
because
ridiculous.
First of all, how do you govern a construct that was articulated by a certain group of people and then feel that you can govern an understanding that you do not intrinsically have? That is why you're making such a hash of it, because this test is reductive and by association insulting to what the whole concept of white privilege is.
But I think another point on this is Westminster City Council seeking to boost recruitment of global majority, i.e. looking at the global population as a whole, realising that there is, well, what we would describe in this country as perhaps as an ethnic minority, but not so in the context of the global population.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit silly.
I think we have to worry. Where we have to worry...
using the word white privilege.
Yeah, but where we have to worry about this is this mindset filters its way through all of these institutions into our schools, where I don't want my white child feeling guilty for her birth because she had no control over it. She is a white child because she was born of two white parents. My mixed-race child was born of a black parent and a white one because I don't have racism in my body. But I don't want our children feeling guilty, and I would argue that our most underprivileged and underachieving group of people in this country now are white boys who are not feeling privileged and do not have any because of an accident of their birth.
OK, well, listen, we'll leave that story there. But my final word on this is there's no such thing as white privilege. We need to stop making these little phrases up and then some people feel privileged and other people don't. And we need to treat people as equals and forget about the colour. That's where I'm with this. Right, Renee, let's start with over 500,000 young people not in work, never had a job. Lazy.
I actually think this is really interesting because, in a way, we're responsible for this. Many years ago, probably about 20 years ago now, we stopped our children having Saturday jobs. I worked in East Ham Station bookstore from 6 in the morning sometimes before school from when I was 12 years old. And I then went on to swim in the morning before I went to school, and then I went to school. I got an array of very good O-level and A-level results, so much so that I can be a doctor. It didn't disadvantage me doing that. What it did do is it taught me the value of money, because I came from a single-parent family where we didn't have any, and it taught me how to work for things and buy them myself if I wanted them. By taking that away from children, which we have, they can't get jobs till they're 16, and even then they probably can't get jobs. I had to fight for my son to get a job at 16, and we've taken away that desire to get up, be proud, do a job.
Well, they want to go on TikTok and everything.
You literally took that thoughts right out of my head. I think it's like we're now seeing the Frankenstein monster that a development and proliferation of technology has created, because you've got a generation of people who had years, because it started at the turn of the millennium, where you had very popular people like Damon Dash, like Jay-Z say, I learned from the school of life. You don't need to go to school, get out there and hustle. And then the internet came in, and the internet influencer came in, and the YouTube millionaire came in. So you've got young people saying that people have told me I don't need an education, so they don't get that built-in structure of you work to achieve, you grind to get success. You basically come up with an idea, get attention, and get money. So everyone's waiting for a moment that I do something shocking enough, something offensive enough, something stupid enough, something attention-grabbing enough, and make quick money. So the calibration of an understanding of what it takes to achieve is so different for this generation.
Well, what about benefits? They've got loads. They're the highest portion of people on benefits at the moment. I think it's all this mental health. I've got mental health. It's very difficult to challenge that narrative. It's very and a lot of people using the COVID thing as you know.
Well, we do also have to look at COVID and the role it played, because we suddenly told children that we told them all their life that the most important thing they did was go to school, and then suddenly it wasn't important anymore. And we suddenly showed people that sitting on their sofa all day being paid by the government was actually quite cool if you wanted to smoke dope and play, games on TV. We suddenly took away the school ethic and the work ethic from these people, and we need to acknowledge the damage that this decision did to our children and our young people. It was possibly the most culturally, emotionally and financially disastrous decision that a government ever took.
Could we correct it with a bit of national service?
I think what's happening now is that basically the overhaul of the benefit system is what needs to happen. It's not very Labour, but it is necessary because it's going to shake people out of that apathy that there's something that I can ride on even though I don't work.
All right, Judith De Silva and Dr. Renee Hunderkamp, thank you very much. They'll be back in an hour, but first let's get your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at 32 minutes past 10. The FTSE 100 has dropped to a 3-month low after Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on UK exports to the US.
Yes, we have a very good dialogue going. And I think he was very happy about how we treated them with tariffs.
Well, despite Britain facing the lowest rate, economists say the impact could still shave 0.5% off UK growth in the coming years. The government, though, is keeping its options open with possible retaliatory tariffs on jeans, guitars and bourbon. But Trade Secretary Jonathan Reynolds says there'll be a 4-week consultation before any action is taken. Sir Keir Starmer, meanwhile, insists he'll fight for the best deal, but experts warn Chancellor Rachel Reeves may have to raise taxes or cut spending. Well, as we were just saying, the markets have tumbled with the FTSE 100 falling to that 3-month low. Let's take a listen again to what Donald Trump had to say earlier. Apologies, we don't have that clip for you. But as I say, Donald Trump saying that the Prime Minister is very happy with the state of those 10% tariffs on British imports. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the return to US protectionism is a blow to British consumers and all options remain on the table.
We have been absolutely clear that all options are on the table as we ensure the national interests of the British people, who will be very concerned at this time about how this affects the bottom line for them and their economic welfare. We will put their national interests first.
In other news, Birmingham's bin strike is being called a public health crisis, with streets buried under weeks of uncollected rubbish. After a month of walkouts, government ministers have now stepped in, calling the mess totally unacceptable and demanding that deals be struck. The council's declared a major incident, bringing in extra crews to claw back control, but Unite is doubling down, accusing Labour leaders of slashing pay and declaring war on workers. And pubs, clubs and restaurants across the country could soon stay open later under a major shake-up of licensing rules. The government's giving mayors new powers to overrule councils and boost nightlife in key areas like Manchester, London and Birmingham. The Chancellor says it's about cutting red tape and helping the hospitality industry to grow. But the sector's been hit with £3.4 billion in costs this month alone. And ministers hope the change will lead to more late-night openings and alfresco dining across the UK. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup from me at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's over to Cameron and Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
35 after 10 o'clock. Up next, as a terrorist linked to the 7/7 London bombings is going to be set free in Britain, we'll be asking, can terrorists ever be reformed? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Nottinghamshire, the A60 is closed each way along Leeming Lane South in Mansfield after an accident causing queues. In the West Midlands, the A454 is closed eastbound along Aldridge Road in Walsall after a car overturned. In Warwickshire, the A426 is closed in both directions south of Dunchurch after an accident last night. In Suffolk on the A11, there's a lane closed southbound where there's a shed load of bricks at the Five Ways roundabouts at Barton Mills, causing queues from Elvedon. And on the M25 in Kent, there are queues from Junction 2 for the A2 due to the Dartford tunnels after an accident earlier. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Sunday on GB News Breakfast, we've got a special treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the Broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon this Sunday from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
Welcome back. It is 10:39. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron and Nana.
Right, so a High Court judge has ruled that as a terrorist linked to the 7/7 bombings called Haroon Aswad can be freed after completing treatment for mental ill health.
Yes, that's despite concerns from police who worried that he remains a risk to national security. So we're asking, can terrorists ever truly be reformed?
Well, joining us to debate this is broadcaster Fahima Mahmood and also political commentator Charlie Downs. All right, Fahima, I'm going to start with you and ask you straight out. Can a terrorist like this sort of person be rehabilitated and get back into society?
I would not really address this particular case because obviously there are still questions about it. But generally, I think there are many former extremists, jihadists and far right that have successfully reformed, and rehabilitation has worked for violent criminals. So why not terrorists? Many terrorists even share traits with gang members and violent offenders, and both groups join for identity, protection or revenge. And these can actually have sort of like a way in which that the government can actually help with them reforming. We've got real life success stories of Majid Nawaz, who was an ex-Islamic and extremist who now fights radicalization. We've got Frank Mienk, we've got Jess Morton, Ayman Dean, and Nasser Widadi. So we do have even cases right now with the sort of terrorist link even in Syria that Western governments are actually happy to shake hand with. And actually when he had a $10 million bounty on his head, and also part of Al-Qaeda, who are now also in sort of links with Western government, including the UK, Europe, and the US. Now, individual cases we have to look at separately. I actually work with the Ministry of Justice. I actually help reform people in probation at this moment in time. I deal with police and probation officers where they give me and refer their cases so that we can actually help them in reform, as well as also make sure that they get into community and society and they can actually be there whether they are coming off a certain license. And there are many things that the police do put in place to make sure that the community on a whole is really safe. So there are things put in place, and the more even a terrorist or even certain people that have done certain things and they've, had their time.
Well, let's bring Charlie in. Let's bring Charlie in because you've had a bit of time there. You had a bit of time. Charlie, what's your take on it?
I disagree. I don't buy that terrorists of the worst order can be rehabilitated, and even terrorists of a more mild order, like this chap who we're talking about today, who's being released back to West Yorkshire. I don't think that you can just hug somebody out of radical beliefs. Now, I think what the broader conversation we're having here is actually about justice and how we think about justice and what theory of justice we seek to apply to people who have committed crimes in this country. Now, the recidivism rate in Britain in 2023 was 26.5%, which seems quite high to me. That's 1 in 4 prisoners, or criminals rather, leaving prison, committing more crimes and returning to prison. And so the idea that our rehabilitation programs are working, I think is very much up for debate. Now, when it comes to terrorism and de-radicalisation specifically, there are 2 programs that the British government deploys. One is called the Healthy Identity Intervention Programme, which seeks to understand why terrorists committed the crimes that they did through understanding their beliefs and their motivations, and also minimising their engagement with the terrorist groups that they have been involved with. Now, that's apparently, anecdotally, has been quite effective. The second programme is the Desistance and Disengagement Programme, which seeks to mentor and offer psychological and mental health help to these people, and also offers theological and ideological advice. Now, both of these programmes have been in place for a number of years, but neither have actually been tested and measured for outcomes. So we don't know whether these are actually working or not. And to be honest, this theory of justice that underpins these ideas is not just present in our country, but it's present across Europe and the West more generally. And it's what I would describe as the progressive theory of justice, which is the idea that all human beings are fundamentally good moral agents who can be essentially hugged into morality and into virtue. And I just don't buy that. I think that there are some people who are beyond redemption. And as a Christian, that's difficult for me to grapple with, because once I do believe that all people are made in the image of God and that we are all children of God and we have morality in our hearts. But at the same time, I can't help but look at, for instance, the killers of Lee Rigby and think, well, the correct way to deal with these people is to sentence them to death, because they are clearly beyond redemption.
I'm with you on that.
Charlie, obviously there will be some people who disagree with you on that point, but Fahima, a word to you. Surely the question needs to be, is this individual still a danger to the public? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think most people would agree they need to stay in prison.
The police are saying they are.
Well, I'm really surprised that if all of that is come out and the evidence for that, then why are they coming out at large? Because like I said, I work with and alongside police and probation officers. They don't just let people out like that, and it doesn't just happen. And we're not hugging them. We are actually having an actual reform and sort of things in place. If you don't take it serious, there are individuals that will actually come out of the system and actually re-offend. But you can't just have individual cases with a cookie cutter remedy and put all under the same blanket.
But Fahima, very briefly though, Fahima, if the police are worried and saying that he's going to be a danger, maybe he's served whatever sentence he had to serve. So you can't really keep people in if they've served their sentence. But if he's still a danger, it's a bit of a risk. Very briefly, Charlie, you've got about 20 seconds. It's a bit of a risk, isn't it, letting these people out on the premise that you think that they won't.
Certainly, terrorism of a theological or religious nature. I think it's incredibly difficult to bring somebody back from that, because, as I said already, I'm a Christian, and no amount of mental health support and counselling would cause me to reject my theological beliefs, because I believe that they are fundamentally universally true. And so the idea that we can, as I say, therapize and hug people out of their radical beliefs, I just don't buy.
All right, Charlie Downs and also Fahima Mahmood. We've got to leave it there. We've just got to leave it there, Fahima. Really lovely to talk to you. We could go on forever, but we've got to get to Aintree. Thank you very much, both of you.
Up next, we're off to Ladies' Day, as Nana just said, to Aintree, where sustainable fashion, apparently, is the hot topic. But Sophie Reaper's got an amazing outfit, so stay with us. There you go.
The weather is glorious here at Aintree ahead of Ladies' Day. We'll have that all of that coming up. But first, here's a look at the weather at some top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After some very strong winds in recent days in the Canaries, things looking a little calmer as we head into next week. Plenty of sunshine over the central Med. There's a weather front approaching Madeira. That'll bring some rain later on through the weekends. Plenty of showers over northern Spain on Saturday, but much of the south of Spain dry and sunny. Some of those showers could affect Barcelona. Plenty of showers across Greece and Turkey as well. Quite a sunny Saturday for Italy. Temperatures rising in Barcelona by Sunday before turning colder next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunshine to come for most places today. Feeling quite warm in that sunshine, although there is a cool breeze blowing, and that cool breeze making it feel quite cold on some of these North Sea coasts. We've seen a few showers overnight across parts of Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a possibility of one or two through the morning, and it is quite cloudy across parts of the west as well, but that cloud should tend to clear away, and any showers certainly disappearing. And then it's a dry day with plenty of sunshine. It will be quite fresh on these North Sea coasts with the breeze picking up, but inland temperatures getting up to 21, maybe 22 degrees Celsius. Feeling a little cooler than that, though, because of that breeze. But for much of the south, the warmest day of the week. It will turn a little cooler because colder air is pushing down across the northeast through this evening. That will be quite noticeable, that wind again through the evening time, despite many places having a lovely looking evening. Plenty of sunshine around. It's still quite warm across these western areas with temperatures through the evening rush hour still up into the high teens. As we go through the night, we will start to see a bit more of a change, the colder air filtering south, and with the breeze strengthening coming in from the North Sea, we could well see a lot of mist and low cloud just shimmying its way inland across these eastern counties of England, eastern Scotland, and perhaps even into parts of the Midlands by dawn. Temperatures will fall away as well down into single figures, some frost likely across parts of Scotland. So a cool start to the weekend, a pretty drab one too over the Midlands and eastern England, and then this mist and low cloud should tend to melt away through the morning. Always the risk at this time of year that it could stick on some coasts, particularly from Yorkshire northwards. So maybe a bit of har and fret here and there, but for many, should be a sunny Saturday. Quite as warm as today, though, but we should still get temperatures across the south into the high teens, chilly on that east coast.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
It's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron and Nana.
Right, now good morning to you. The Grand National runners and riders are gearing up for Ladies' Day at Aintree.
But after Cheltenham races ditched their day this year and renamed it as Style Wednesday to be more gender inclusive, there is some concern over the tradition.
Well, let's speak to Sophie Reaper. She's our GB News reporter. She's there live at Aintree. And like many others, they said, why is she dressed as a mouse? Sophie, I love the outfit.
Thank you very much and good morning to you. Well, we're here at Aintree and joining us is GB News and local legend Pete Price. Pete, very good morning to you. What are you making of Ladies' Day this year so far? Gates have just opened, and we've seen a little bit of fashion. What do you make of it?
It's incredible, but first of all, can I apologise? I'm sorry. I'm actually an Evertonian fan, but I'm colourblind. Anyway, yeah. Can you just go to there? Look at that. That's the winner. That's going to be the winner
of the Grand National.
Of the Grand National tomorrow. And he's just resting and just there. I love it.
That's about your height, isn't it, Pete? That could do well for you.
Hi-ho! Oh, stop it.
Dear me. Now, we were just hearing in the studio there, of course, Cheltenham made the decision last year to change the name of Ladies' Day to Style Wednesday, but they've never done that here at Aintree. They've stuck with Ladies' Day. What do you make of it?
Well, it's got something to do with ladies. There's a billion ladies turn up and I absolutely love it. And don't change it. Why change it if it works? Is that woke or something? I just love it. And what I've just seen coming through the doors, the most beautiful, beautiful ladies. God, I wish I was on the other bus.
Dearie me. But we have to say, of course, that it's not just about ladies, is it? Because look how fabulously you're dressed today. The men get involved, don't they?
Yeah, and they can win something as well. I mean,
Yes.
look at the tie. Look at the tie. That
The
is
Liver building
one of the
on
Liver
there.
building on the tie.
A local legend. You've got to support Liverpool,
Yeah,
haven't
and
you,
I
of
am a
course?
Liverpool fan. And after the game the other day, get in. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, the derby, you mean? I thought you meant the Newcastle Carabao Cup. We'll not talk about that, do
I tell you what I do love here. Every year at Aintree, they change and put more stuff in. There's a new pub open. There's another champagne bar open. They don't sit back. They make it work every year and beautifully. And we've got people from all over the world looking at us right now, and you look stunning.
Oh, Pete, stop it. Now, it's sold out today, was sold out yesterday, and of course, Grand National tomorrow. Are you going to be having a flutter?
No, I don't bet.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
I apologise.
I don't bet. I just
gamble.
love coming up and enjoying it. And when they go
The
there
atmosphere.
off, I go and find a drink.
So you don't gamble, but you will have a drink. Pete Price, thank you so much for joining us. Always fabulous to speak to you here today. And we're going to try and speak to you again tomorrow, aren't we?
And I love being back on GB News. Yes!
An absolute channel favourite. Pete, thank you so much. We're going to be bringing you all the latest from Aintree throughout the day.
Right, lovely. Sophie Reefer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
She does look like a little mouse there, doesn't she?
It's a beautiful dress. I love how they're... It's an absolutely beautiful dress. And they're both in red, of course.
They are.
I'm very jealous because I'd love to be at Aintree this weekend.
Well, Martin says Sophie looks really tidy. So I think that's a nice... So say she looks lovely.
You're meant to dress up for Ladies' Day. I mean, when I go to Royal Ascot and cover the royal family there, I'm in a top hat and tails. I think it's just what you do when you go to the races.
Well, we're also talking about terrorism, and Michael said, I don't care whether terrorists can be reformed or not. My reason for not caring is because there is only one way to test their reformation, and that is by letting them go. Once you have let them go, you might only find out that they're not reformed when they kill someone. We should not put anyone at risk. Well, listen, stay with us. There's still to come. If you're worried about the impact of Donald Trump's trade tariffs, find out why Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage, might be the man with the solution.
I repeat the offer. If the government wants me to help, I would help, and I would do it, even though they're a Labour government, I'd do it in the national interest.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunshine to come for most places today. Feeling quite warm in that sunshine, although there is a cool breeze blowing, and that cool breeze making it feel quite cold on some of these North Sea coasts. We've seen a few showers overnight across parts of Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a possibility of one or two through the morning, and it is quite cloudy across parts of the west as well, but that cloud should tend to clear away, and any showers certainly disappearing. And then it's a dry day with plenty of sunshine. It will be quite fresh on these North Sea coasts with the breeze picking up, but inland temperatures getting up to 21, maybe 22 degrees Celsius. Feeling a little cooler than that, though, because of that breeze. But for much of the south, the warmest day of the week. It will turn a little cooler because colder air is pushing down across the northeast through this evening. That will be quite noticeable, that wind again through the evening time, despite many places having a lovely looking evening. Plenty of sunshine around. It's still quite warm across these western areas with temperatures through the evening rush hour still up into the high teens. As we go through the night, we will start to see a bit more of a change, the colder air filtering south, and with the breeze strengthening coming in from the North Sea, we could well see a lot of mist and low cloud just shimmying its way inland across these eastern counties of England, eastern Scotland, and perhaps even into parts of the Midlands by dawn. Temperatures will fall away as well, well down into single figures, some frost likely across parts of Scotland. So a cool start to the weekend, a pretty drab one too over the Midlands and eastern England, and then this mist and low cloud should tend to melt away through the morning. always the risk at this time of year that it could stick on some coasts, particularly from Yorkshire northwards. So maybe a bit of har and fret here and there, but for many, should be a sunny Saturday. Quite as warm as today, though. We should still get temperatures across the south into the high teens, chilly on that east coast.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock. It's Friday the 4th of April. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and me, Nana Acquare.
A very good morning to you. Markets melt down. Trump's tariffs cause global stock markets to plunge by £2 trillion as Britain's braced for more financial chaos. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage offers the government a helping hand.
I repeat the offer. If the government wants me to help, I would help, and I would do it. Even though they're a Labour government, I do it in the national interest.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump says that the Prime Minister is very happy with the level of tariffs. Well, I was with the Prime Minister yesterday. That wouldn't be the phrase that I would choose. I'll bring you more details shortly.
Prince Harry fights back. The Duke of Sussex hopes that the investigation into his charity will expose what he calls blatant lies of the bullying claims.
A wasted generation. More than 500,000 people aged between 16 and 24 who aren't working or studying have never had a job. Meanwhile,
somebody please tell me why I'd ever get a job when this is my weekly universal credits that I get. I mean, why would I get a job? I get your monthly wage in a week.
A benefits influencer brags about making $500,000 per year by exploiting the welfare system, and she encourages others to do the same. She's not doing anything illegal, though. That is the problem.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
The Royal Navy warship HMS Duncan hosts a street party to mark 1 month until the 80th anniversary of VE Day.
To the bridge of HMS Duncan, where schoolchildren, cadets and also Russ Kemp and Den Kelly Holmes have been attending as we march towards 1 month towards VE Day.
And thousands flock to Liverpool today for the famous Ladies' Day at Aintree.
The crowds are gathering, the music is blasting and the sun is shining. Seems like we're building towards a fabulous day for Ladies' Day here at Aintree.
And Royal Route music. King Charles plays a carrot, yes, you heard that right, a carrot, among 350 guests at a Windsor Castle reception yesterday. Take a listen.
Yeah, bless him. He's so sweet, isn't he, the little king?
It
Playing his
was.
little carrots.
Although it did remind me of, you know, primary school where everyone has recorders and it
so
plays
bad.
a bit of an awkward, awful noise. I think that was a bit better, perhaps.
We used to have recorders in a box, and you'd take the recorder out of the box, and you'd hope that it wasn't the one with the little dried saliva on the thing where you...
Yeah, like looking
Do you
back.
remember that was so
Yes.
disgusting?
Looking back, why did they let us do that? That's not very
It
hygienic.
was disgusting. It really was. It really was. And they smelt of dried saliva. But never mind. We'd love to hear what you think. Send us your thoughts. Post your comments. gbnews.com/your-say. But first, let's get your latest news.
Very good morning to you. It's just after 11 o'clock. The top story, global markets have dropped for a second day as Donald Trump's sweeping worldwide tariffs are continuing to spark fears of a global downturn. London's FTSE 100 fell to a 3-month low on opening and follows further declines in the Asian markets overnight. Well, speaking earlier, Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the return to US protectionism could be a blow to British consumers, and all options remain on the table.
We have been absolutely clear that all options are on the table as we ensure the national interests of the British people, who will be very concerned at this time about how this affects the bottom line for them and their economic welfare. We will put their national interests first.
Well, despite those comments from David Lammy, Donald Trump claims the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is very happy with the move.
We have a very good dialogue going. I think he was very happy about how we treated them on tariffs.
Ministers, though, say they'll stay cool and calm, but retaliatory levies on US goods like whiskey, jeans and guitars are being considered. Meanwhile, the Trump administration says the US will stay in NATO despite rising tensions over those tariffs and foreign policy. At a tense summit in Brussels, the US has called on allies to double defence spending to 5% of GDP, calling it realistic. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reaffirmed America's support for the alliance as foreign ministers wrap up their 2 days of talks. But Denmark's foreign minister has slammed Trump's attempt to buy Greenland, calling it a breach of sovereignty. That row comes after the US scaled back a planned visit to the island, following backlash from Danish and Greenlandic leaders. Well, breaking this morning, a woman who suffocated her newborn child and hid his death for over 25 years is this morning being sentenced. Joanne Sharkey admitted killing the baby, known as baby Callum, whose body was found in woodland near Gulliver's World in Warrington in 1998. The 55-year-old has now pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. That's after experts said her postnatal depression severely impaired her judgment. She has also admitted concealing the birth of that child. We will keep across the details of that sentencing as it is handed down in court later this hour. Meanwhile, Russia's battlefield advances in Ukraine have slowed to their lowest pace in 5 months, despite a new Kremlin campaign to conscript 160,000 more Russian troops. It comes just hours after Moscow rejected peace proposals, saying they don't address the root causes of the war. Donald Trump, though, has voiced his fury at Vladimir Putin's stance, accusing him of stalling a ceasefire by demanding that Zelensky is removed. The Kremlin has also lashed out at a European plan to patrol Ukraine's border, with Russian state TV threatening to kill any foreign troops deployed there. And just before I hand you back to Cameron and Nana, Birmingham's bin strike is being called a public health crisis, with streets buried under weeks of uncollected rubbish. After a month of walkouts, government ministers have now stepped in, calling the mess totally unacceptable and demanding that a deal be struck. The council has also declared a major incident, bringing in extra crews to claw back control. But Unite's doubling down, accusing Labour leaders of slashing pay and declaring war on workers. Those are the latest headlines for now. Another roundup from me in about half an hour's time. Now, though, it's over to Britain's Newsroom.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back. The time is 11:08. Lots of you have been getting in touch. gbnews.com/your say. We've been talking a lot about the continuing fallout of President Trump's tariffs this morning. Dennis has been in touch. He says hopefully Trump and Vance will be as good as their words and link any trade deal with Starmer to freedom of speech issues. No free speech, no deal. Hold Starmer's feet to the fire in the wider interests of us all.
I thought I'd put my glasses on, make myself look a bit cleverer.
Oh, wow. They suit you, Nana.
Do they? Somebody told me I look a bit like a womble. But never mind. This one from Brian, and actually he makes a point that benefits influencers doing something illegal by not declaring earned income, because the point is that how can she be earning $500,000 if she's making over £1,000 a week? Because that's what she was saying on the thing. She was pointing to the number, and it was 1,000 and something pounds a week. Somebody else also spotted that as well. GB News, Martin said, GB News, please explain how she's earning £500,000 on £1,150 per week. If it's earned from social media, she shouldn't be on benefits.
Yeah, I think a lot of people questioning those figures, and of course you need to remember it's your money, it's taxpayers' money we're talking about here. On the bins, Gillian's been in touch. She says Birmingham Council are a disgrace. They give themselves a 5.8% pay rise but want to take money off the bin men. The rubbish that you are seeing on the streets is not normal household rubbish. Majority of this is people fly tipping mattresses and sofas and beds, etc. It's not normal household bin rubbish, and I think we should highlight this.
That's
that is
a good
true.
point, actually, because you look on the skip, you're like, isn't that an old motorcycle in there?
I think what's happening is people are taking advantage of this.
Of course
so I think they're just
tipping.
making it worse because of all the fly tipping.
Well, you might as well. I mean, why wouldn't you? This one here from Ian, and this is about Jeremy Hunt, who was saying that Britain needs to be low tax like Singapore. Ian says Jeremy Hunt saying that Britain needs to be low tax like Singapore, as if he was never Chancellor, is actually funny. Let's all pretend that the death of the high street from high rates and tax, net zero, and all the other crippling things for business never happened under him. It's a very, very good point. In fact, I bumped into Jeremy Hunt a couple of days ago.
Did you?
At a book launch.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yes,
nice. How was he?
He was very good. He's got a book coming out, and I said, can I have an interview? He said yes.
Oh, good.
It's good. So I shall get him on my show.
On GB
we'll have a
News.
chat, and I'll ask him about this.
Yes.
Let's hope he's not watching now.
Keep your thoughts coming in.
All right. Now, the 80th anniversary of VE and VJ Day will be marked this year with a series of events and celebrations across the UK.
Yeah, the Royal Navy warship HMS Duncan is today hosting a street party to mark 1 month until the anniversary.
National reporter Charlie Peters is there for us. Charlie, tell us more.
Morning, Nan. I've actually just left that street party, and you find me on the bridge of HMS Duncan, where the commander would normally sit to drive this ship around the world, recently returned from a deployment to the eastern Mediterranean, where the United Kingdom and the Royal Navy have been very busy in recent years on operations. But today, this children, cadets, and also some celebrities as we march towards VE Day at the start of May. And there's going to be a street party on the 5th of May, and we've been speaking to people here about plans they have with the Royal Navy, all parts of the armed forces, really keen to commemorate and remember our greatest generation, those of the Second World War who achieved freedom in Europe and won the war. Well, earlier today, it's the man who usually works from this bridge, not me, Commander Dan Lee. He spoke to me at just how important it was for us to commemorate the Second World War and to ensure that all parts of the United Kingdom come together and remember the sacrifices on VE Day on its 80th anniversary. Commander Lee, why is it so important for us to be commemorating the 80th anniversary of VE Day?
So VE Day was a culmination of the end of, or the beginning of the end of World War II. It was a time that was a truly national endeavour, whether that be people digging for victory, people in new roles in fields and factories, people supporting at home, children evacuated, and it was such a huge national event. It is something that we should really celebrate, that it was coming to an end. With that, with the number of veterans who are sadly reducing in numbers, today's a real opportunity. We're really happy to have a number of the local school children and Royal Navy cadets here, so we can tell the story of World War II, why it was important, and what we fought for.
When you're making that speech, you're referring to the freedoms that we enjoy in Britain, an increasingly fractured world. With all the global conflicts going on, this is a particularly important time to remember the freedoms we enjoy in Britain.
No, I think it is, yeah. I think what we believe in, why we fight for them, and why others have fought in the past, I think are all themes that we should reflect upon, particularly at a time of an opportunity like VE Day, where we can all get together and celebrate as communities of something that we did as a national endeavour.
And it's an attempt to bring everyone in Britain to commemorate this experience and celebrate VE Day, which is so central to what you're putting on here today as well.
Yeah, so I think the real thing of what we're working together with the Together Coalition today is bringing communities together. It's a real opportunity for communities to come and conduct their own street parties, celebrate over some food, and enjoy an opportunity reminiscing and celebrating.
Well, that was Commander Dan Lee speaking at a very busy Portsmouth dockyard today. Just above me there, to the back, you can see HMS Queen Elizabeth, and her sister ship, the Prince of Wales, is preparing for an upcoming deployment. Plenty of vessels and Royal Navy sailors here, preparing for upcoming deployments, but also, as they do so, commemorating those who went before them, as we prepare for 80 years since VE Day, with those street parties coming on Bank Holiday Monday on the 5th of May next month.
OK, Charlie Peters, thank you very much for that. We'll catch up with you a bit later.
That gentleman that interviewed you, very smart, very well ironed. All the outfit was very well, his suit was very smart.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, Britain is bracing itself for market chaos throughout the day as the government considers its response to President Trump's tariffs.
But business leaders have urged Sir Keir Starmer against retaliating as Donald Trump claims the UK is happy with the tariffs imposed.
Well, that is as the administration maintains their claims that the tariffs are reciprocal. But are they really? Well, to help us with this, political correspondent Catherine Forster joins us. Now, Catherine, Donald Trump, it looked like what he was saying was quite good, because he had the little board and it said apparently 10% and then 10, so it was as though we haven't changed at all. And then the others who had a double tariff looked like he'd halved everything, so actually he was sort of, even though what they were receiving was bad, he's almost doing us a favour. What is the truth about that? How did he calculate all of that?
Yes, it was quite extraordinary. What a moment of political theatre with that big board with all the countries on them. And yes, he's made out pretty much that he's doing everybody a favour and that he's been quite generous, because he's saying that the rest of the world charges America far, far more than he's going to charge them. But I think it's worth having a look into this, because the way they've actually worked this out is actually quite simple. So they've taken a given country's trade deficit in goods with the America. So in this case, it's the European Union, $235 billion. They've then divided that by the amount that they import from the EU, so in this case, $605 billion. And that's given them a number which they've turned into a percentage, 39%. Now, that is the number that they're saying that basically these countries are charging in tariffs. So they've said the European Union, 39%, but we're very, very kind, so we're going to give you a discount. We're only going to charge you 20%. So on the face of that, that looks pretty generous. But I think it's worth saying, according to the World Trade Organization, the average tariffs that the EU charges are just 2.7%, and actually 70% of all the stuff that's imported to the EU is tariff-free. So it's not really quite as it seems.
So what's President Trump's motivation here? Because he's been talking about this kind of thing for decades, long before he was president. It's all about America first with him.
It's absolutely America first. Basically, he has decided that the sort of era of hyper-globalization, where we got stuff made wherever in the world, they could do it cheaply, that hasn't worked for America. And, we saw it during COVID. We saw it with, the war in Ukraine, getting energy and things from Russia, being dependent on other countries that may not necessarily be our friends is not a good idea. So I think it's totally understandable why he wants to get jobs in America, people building stuff in America, totally understandable. But at the same time, it's going to take years and years and years for that to happen. Now, he's already had a bit of a win in that JCB, a big British company, has announced they're making a new factory in Texas. They're going to double the size of that. That's going to be great for American jobs. But, that sort of reordering of the way the global economy works is going to take a long time. And in the meantime, it's going to be really, really bumpy. So the FTSE today is 2.5% down. We saw huge falls in global stock markets yesterday, 2 trillion wiped off assets. But Donald Trump is saying the markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country's going to boom. The rest of the world wants to see if they can make a deal. Well, I'm not sure about the first part, but certainly we are desperately trying still to get a deal, because much as Trump says that we're happy about 10% tariffs, it's not great.
Speaking of that, then, so what was the mood music like within Labour HQ? Because you were there, Keir Starmer was there with his team. Were they frantically worried about it? Did you get a frenetic kind of energy around them, or?
No, they're really, really keep calm heads, keep cool, let's be pragmatic. I was at the Labour local election launch in Chesterfield, and, they wanted to talk about the local elections, about domestic issues, but it was totally derailed by Donald Trump and these tariffs. But they're very much of the mindset. They think that we have a special relationship. We actually have broadly a balance in terms of trade. There is no trade deficit. They think there's a deal to be done. They hope to get it done before these tariffs came in. That's not happening, but they're still hopeful. But they are looking at sort of, if they can't get a deal, they reserve the right to reciprocate. But they're not making the sort of big noises that Macron or the EU are making about these threats being, these tariffs being unacceptable and a really bad idea. They clearly don't want this, but they do not want to upset Donald Trump.
All right, Catherine Foster, thank you very much. Very interesting about the way he's calculated the tariff. It did look good for the UK, but I still think that he has every right to do what he wants to do, and as he should. America first, that's what he said.
Indeed. Thank you, Catherine. Now, some breaking news just in. Anti-abortion activist Livia Tosici-Bolt has been found guilty at Poole Magistrates Court of 2 charges of breaching a buffer zone outside an abortion clinic in Bournemouth.
Now, some will see this as a threat to freedom of expression, but let's get your thoughts throughout the day. Still to come, the Duke of Sussex hopes the investigation into the charity will expose what he calls blatant lies as the bullying row rumbles on.
Up next, find out about some of the awful things plaguing our hospitals. It'll make your stomach churn, truly. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Now, parents across the country who had suffered a miscarriage will now be granted the right to bereavement leave. It's hard to believe that wasn't part of the law before. Well, it's now part of Labour's reforms on workers' rights.
Well, the change will benefit those who lose a pregnancy before 24 weeks.
Well, it's a victory for Keely Langthorne. She's the woman who's led the campaign for the law to be changed. And finally, it has. And Keely is with us now. She's the founder of George's Law and a partner, she's a lawyer as well, at RWK Goodman. And she herself has suffered 3 miscarriages. Keely joins us now. And Keely, it is so good to see you. Victory at last.
Victory at last. We've come a long way, Haley.
Yeah. And we've spoken over the years so many times, haven't we? You've been campaigning for years for this under George's Law.
Yeah.
And it happened on George's birthday this week.
It did so, yeah. It all started back in 22, shortly after I lost George. Obviously met you shortly after, started the campaign, and yeah, Monday evening we'll go down in history, George's 3rd birthday, and being told that, yeah, it's going to finally be law.
So what will happen now? How much leave will women be able to have?
So now it will, Stephen, mirror that if you lose a baby after 24 weeks. So in this current stance, the law says if you lose a baby over 24 weeks, you get 2 weeks paid leave. So the same will now apply if you lose a baby under 24 weeks, so from 0 to 24.
It is unbelievable that the way that the law stood was that you could potentially have lost a baby at, let's say, 8 p.m. and you would be expected to be in the office at 9 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah, and if you think I had a 12-hour labour with George, I bathed him, I left him at the mortuary, but the law says that I should be, as a lawyer, back in work time recording the next day.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Sunday on GB News Breakfast, we've got a special treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon this Sunday from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
Welcome back. Some breaking news just to recap on. The anti-abortion activist Livia Tosici-Bolt has been found guilty at Poole Magistrates Court of 2 charges of breaching a buffer zone outside an abortion clinic in Bournemouth.
Now, some will see this as a threat to freedom of expression. Well, joining us now, GP and medical writer Dr. René Honderkamp, also broadcaster and commentator Judita De Silva. Now, I'm going to start with you, René. Before I do that, I will share a story. That actually I was, you know, when I had my son, I was thinking I wasn't going to have my son. And I went to one of those clinics, and I went 3 times. And the 3rd time, there was somebody like her there, and they changed my mind. And so I didn't find that was an affront of anything. I'm glad they changed my mind, just because they had the pictures of all the fetuses, and then that person there, and I just thought...
I know. It's really hard. I'm torn over this, because I believe vehemently in a woman's right to choose. And, you know, shape her own destiny. I also believe in the right to protest and to express your view otherwise. I think if somebody's just standing outside a clinic and hasn't got pictures of fetuses, I don't agree with that.
Well, they had,
but it's just standing.
She didn't
and
have them,
praying
but
or
there was like a
whatever.
row on the way.
I think that's perfectly fine. And I think the moment we get into arresting someone for praying in their own head, we're on very dangerous freedom of speech territory. Having said that, I think no woman ever goes through an abortion glibly or easily. It's a very difficult decision and they probably should be left to their own devices.
So Judita, she's 64 years old and she was holding a sign saying, and I quote, "Here to talk if you want." So that's what she was doing and that's what she's been found guilty of.
If that is all, because I'm not familiar with this situation, if that is all it was, I think that they're just making an example of her. We don't know, did she accost someone? Did she talk to a woman? When
it was
they
a buffer
breaching?
zone.
This is her. Well, yeah. The district judge, Orla Austin, has told the courts that she lacks insights that her presence could have a detrimental effect on the women attending the clinic, their associates, staff, and members of the public. And the judge went on to say, "I accept her beliefs were truly held beliefs, although it's accepted this defendant held pro-life views. It's important to note this case is not about the rights and wrongs about abortion, but about whether the defendant was in breach of the Public Spaces Protection Order."
Okay, if she's in violation, she's in violation. I think that this is the wrong case to make an example of, but I completely agree with everything you've said. I feel like very tender about the issue because for a woman to be making that choice, it's probably the worst moment of her life. Leave her alone to get through it. The last thing she needs is judgment being hurled at her. And yes, she's saying, "I want to talk." You don't know the conversations those women have had. By that point, they just need to be left alone to go through the worst time for their mental health.
Well, no, I'm not so sure. Listen,
feel how you feel, but don't impose it on another person.
If there's a buffer zone and she was not outside that zone, then I get it. There's a rule, so that's it. If she was within that zone and that's what she's guilty of, then that is fair enough. As for whether she should be anywhere near there, inviting people to talk and things, I have no issue with that at all. She's allowed to do that. But if she did breach the rules, which say you need to be within a certain distance if you want to do that, then that is another question, because the rules are there.
It's 200 metres or something.
I mean, I don't know whether I agree. I think that's fine, fair enough.
I've always found it just so bizarre that that is the point at which you choose to confront a woman making that choice.
I don't think that...
It isn't, like, I've always found it like, do you really feel that the way you're going about your right to protest on this particular issue, that's the best way to do it?
Well, for me, it was.
They would argue. I think it's a beautiful moment that you described, but that is rare.
No, I think there's probably more. I don't think it is.
So the pro-life campaigners, and I've spent a lot of time on this, would argue that quite a few women, if they get the opportunity to talk, if somebody can explain to them that there will be support for them, etc., which they offer, then many of them will change their mind because they're literally teetering on the edge. So, you know, I'm completely torn on this. I'm completely torn on a woman's right to make the decision and to be left alone to make it. But at the same time, if all they are needing, I'm also very pro people having babies, if all they are needing is a bit of support to know that it's out there, then...
I wish they would do it in a more palliative way, as in offer that, saying that just come and have a conversation if you're teaching. Like, that should be the rhetoric around these kinds of protesters, as opposed to what we see all the time, which is the yelling with placards outside the clinics.
Well, listen, J.D. Vance said it was an affront to freedom of speech, what is happening to her. Do you think it's an affront to freedom of speech?
I don't think it's an affront to freedom of speech because the grounds on which she was found guilty, she was in violation, so that's a different situation.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. So she was... if she had violated a space that she shouldn't have been on, then that's almost like a kind of trespass, I suppose, with what is agreed that we, as a nation, say is acceptable. So that is breaking the law. So if she breaks the law in that respect, then yes. But just holding a sign up and warning people outside a clinic if you are outside the bumper zone.
Well, we've just had a statement through from the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, and the chief executive says that they welcome today's verdict and will protect women and staff who provide abortion care. She says the particular clinic in Bournemouth has been subjected to decades of anti-abortion protests, which resulted in more than 500 reports of harassment. And I think that's the case of, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of women, but clearly it's a very difficult situation for them.
It really is. And, you know, when you're trying to make that decision, you probably don't want to be bombarded with pictures of fetuses or people shouting at you. But it's very difficult to reach these women before they get to the clinic, isn't it? Because you don't know about them, you don't know about the grappling.
Think about social media, about the kinds of way you can reach millions of people. And, think about Peter, like, when you present yourself in a certain way that we are all about conversation at the hardest moment of making the choice. Before you go there, come and talk. We're not going to do anything, we just want to have a conversation. But when your rhetoric, your imagery, the whole optics of your movement is this hostile approach to people in a delicate state, it doesn't do you any favours.
Maybe another way of doing it is to be having people within the clinics themselves that you pass through to just have some counselling and discuss it with you and spell out some of these
They do
options.
have that. They do have that. Some of them do actually have that. Look, I don't really... like I said, I don't have any problem with... Because it wasn't her, the person who approached me didn't have the fetuses. It was like, as you went up to the clinic, there was a picture of the gestation of what the baby would look like at each stage. So that was outside the clinic. That was not to do with this person. But for me, the bottom line is, if she's broken the law in terms of the boundary, then that is how it is. And it's not really freedom of speech or anything. It's more about...
But we've heard the Vice President of the US, J.D. Vance's thoughts on this, saying it is a violation of free speech. And we know, of course, that the Labour government is trying to get a trade deal with the US after all these tariffs.
Yes, but does he know all the details?
Well, probably not, I would
Well,
suggest.
I mean, then his argument, not exactly
then his
chapter and verse on facts. This is someone who described Britain as some prehistoric nation that hadn't been in a war recently. Let's not use J.D. Vance's chapter and verse when it comes to providing a bird's-eye view on the morality of any particular situation. He's not a very well-informed individual.
But perhaps what he's saying is that our laws are in violation of freedom of speech, that the buffer zones, and I'm sure he would, is a violation of freedom of speech. And that's a different conversation. It's not about this individual woman, it's about the buffer zone. And that is a different conversation, because then it takes you back to people being in prison for Facebook posts. You know, maybe that's the overall conversation, not just this one woman.
Indeed. OK, Renee and Juditha, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. Now it's time for the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 11:32. The top story: global markets have dropped for a second day as Donald Trump's sweeping worldwide tariffs continue to spark fears of a global downturn. London's FTSE 100 fell to a three-month low on opening and follows further declines in the Asian markets overnight. Well, speaking on those tariffs, Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the return to US protectionism is a blow to British consumers and that all options remain on the table.
We have been absolutely clear that all options are on the table as we ensure the national interests of the British people, who will be very concerned at this time about how this affects the bottom line for them and their economic welfare. We will put their national interests first.
Well, despite those comments from David Lammy, Donald Trump claims the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is very happy with the move on tariffs.
We have a very good dialogue going. I think he was very happy about how we treated them on tariffs.
Ministers, though, say they will stay cool and calm, but retaliatory levies on US goods like whiskey, jeans and guitars are being considered. Well, let's bring you an update on that breaking news in the last half hour or so that an anti-abortion activist at the centre of a US free speech row has been found guilty of breaching a buffer zone outside Bournemouth's abortion clinic. Livia Tosiki-Bolt was convicted of breaking a public spaces protection order on 2 occasions. In March of last year, the 64-year-old held a sign saying, quote, "Here to talk if you want," near the clinic. Her case drew international attention after a US State Department bureau said it was monitoring proceedings and urged the UK to protect freedom of expression. But a judge said she failed to recognise the distress that her presence would cause to women using the clinic. And also breaking this morning, a mother who suffocated her newborn baby 25 years ago has been spared jail after admitting manslaughter due to postnatal depression. Joanne Sharkey was traced through DNA evidence after her other son was arrested decades later. The baby boy, named Callum by police, was found in Woodland near a theme park in Warrington in 1998. Now aged 55, she received a suspended sentence after the judge in that case said that her mental state had sustainably and substantially impaired her judgment. So that news just into us in the last hour or so. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you very shortly. Now, though, it's over to Cameron and Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Up at noon, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily. Is free speech under threat after the abortion ruling? Let's remind you of what US Vice President J.D. Vance said in February.
There have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them.
But we've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom.
Well, what do you make of that?
Well, I think it absolutely is under threat. And in my view, I know there is this law in place around abortion clinics, but in my view, what right should the authorities have to prosecute a woman for holding up a placard saying, "Here to talk if you want," near an abortion clinic? I think it's chilling. This isn't about whether women or not. This isn't about the abortion debate in my mind. This is about fundamental freedom of expression in this country. Having the police come up to someone and say, "Oh, you can't hold that placard," and then to go and be prosecuted for it, quite incredible.
Well, it depends if she's broken any rules as to where she's allowed to.
I'm sure she has.
But I think those are wrong anyway.
That rule, but in many ways, this is what she is doing. I mean, I'm not even sure. I think probably one of the reasons why the card that she was holding up was so asinine, just here to speak if you need to talk, was to highlight the error, in her view, of this buffer zone, of this rule, how restrictive it is. But I think it's, again, wrong for the Prime Minister to say that there is free speech in this country, and we've had free speech for a very long time. He was the Director of Public Prosecutions who went after a man called Paul Chambers, who had the temerity to write on Twitter about Robin Hood Airport, just outside Nottingham. Now, he said he's going to blow the airport sky high in what was determined to be a joke. The airport said it was a joke, but the Crown Prosecution Service, under Keir Starmer, prosecuted him anyway for grossly offensive communication. That was under the Communications Act 2003. There are case after case after case of this, where the current law in this country doesn't allow you to make a joke if that joke is deemed to be offensive.
Well, what about the pro-Palestine protests then? Would you say that that's, you know, should there be a line drawn as to how much or how far they can go with their protests? Because they seem to be able to say whatever they like, and nobody seemed to be getting arrested for chanting things that were clearly anti-Semitic.
Well, I think chants that are pro-terrorist groups, I think that is a line in the sand, and the police didn't do enough on that and continue to not do enough on that. Direct threats to people, again, a matter for the police, and also anti-Semitic or racist chants, a matter for the police. But in my mind, we can't have a law that bans someone from having a placard saying something is anodyne. I do understand that women, when they go to an abortion clinic, it's incredibly difficult decision for most women to have to make. I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate that some women will find it very uncomfortable to have anyone there praying or holding a placard or anything, even if it's in the distance. But I think freedom of speech is more important.
The interesting distinction, though, that you've raised, Nana, here is absolutely correct. I mean, under the United States First Amendment, racist speech is protected. Under the United States First Amendment, anti-Semitic speech is protected. It's horrific speech. It's speech that none of us would want to engage in. But I think, again, that is a different American conception on free speech than British conception of free speech. So that's a really interesting distinction there. I think that probably the better argument to go for with regard to Palestine protests that seem to happen every weekend, they seem to have slowed down now, is frankly the not so much the speech, but the preclusion to people going about their business, i.e. should you be able to shut a public highway just to march down it? That seems less of a speech issue than a public order issue.
But then again, you're going into parameters and borders, and this is the fact that the point that she was arrested for was the fact that she broke whatever that guideline, that rule was as to the distance with which she could hold that placard.
Her defence lawyer was also making the point that no service user was harmed. There's no evidence of the fact
All right.
that they were
Well,
harmed.
we've got to go because we've got some more breaking news. You'll be up at noon. But breaking, China's finance ministry has says it will impose additional tariffs at 34% on all US goods from the April the 10th as a countermeasure to tariffs imposed by the US. Are we seeing the start of a global trade war? That is the question.
Yeah, well, we've got much more on that. We've got the FTSE 100 here on our screens, absolutely plunging this morning and continues to do so. We're going to have the very latest on this after the break. The market's clearly in turmoil, both here in Asia and presumably in the United States when they open as well a little bit later on. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Sunday on GB News Breakfast, we've got a special treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon, this Sunday from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Just to recap on that breaking news this morning, an anti-abortion activist, Livia Tosici-Bolt, has been found guilty at Poole Magistrates Court of 2 charges of breaching a buffer zone outside an abortion clinic in Bournemouth.
Now, some will see this as a threat to freedom of expression. Director, Family Education Trust and former Executive Officer of Right to Life, Peter Williams, joins us now. Peter, what do you make of this particular ruling?
I just think it's symptomatic of the broader injustice of saying that we're going to criminalise people for offering help to women or offering an alternative perspective on what is going on in particular places around the country. I mean, this is a woman who was not blocking a highway. She wasn't doing any harm to anyone. She wasn't harassing anyone by shouting at them or calling them names. All she was simply doing, as far as I can see, according to the reports that we've heard, is offering support, offering an alternative perspective. I'm here to talk. That's literally all she was saying, and that's what we're criminalising.
Yes, but no. That's not what they're criminalising. They're not criminalising her holding the placard. They're saying that she breached the buffer zone. So there's a zone with which you can protest, and she was not outside that. But she was not. She was basically within it.
Yeah, so you're criminalising someone in a given space, but you're nonetheless criminalising them simply for engaging in what is otherwise freedom of speech. And I think that's quite wrong.
No, but she's not in the right space, though, to do that.
Is the problem.
No, but nobody's saying that she can't complain.
That's okay, but the rule is what I'm challenging here. The rule is wrong, because a rule that says that you shouldn't be able to offer help to women in a given space is a ludicrous piece of legislation, a ludicrous example of government overreach. And it was only in place because the abortion lobby, which hates people who oppose abortion, wants to stop them from providing that alternative help and that alternative perspective to women. And that's the fundamental issue here.
Peter, the British Pregnancy Advisory Service has released a statement in the last few minutes, and they claim that that particular clinic in Bournemouth has been subjected to decades of protest, but also resulted in more than 500 reports of harassment. So presumably that is why the buffer zone was set up in the first place.
Well, we're actually just trusting their word on that. It's interesting that there's never been any pictorial evidence or videographical evidence of genuine harassment going on. Now, I've been to a lot of these different kind of protests. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't agree with from a simply pragmatic perspective. I'm not sure that using aborted fetus pictures outside of abortion facilities is necessarily a good idea, irrespective of what you think about those on a pragmatic level. I've never once, in all the times I've been, and I've been to plenty of them, seen any kind of shouting at women, any kind of judgmental behaviour beyond the broad, we don't think that abortion is right, it's wrong. There's never been any harassment that an ordinary person...
But that's just what you've seen. But that's just what you've seen. You can go by what you've seen.
Absolutely.
But this is what people are saying. But what about the women going into the clinic? Now, that's all very well. Everybody should have an equal right to their own space to contemplate whatever it is they want to contemplate. But when there is a border that is set there that says, look, you can do your thing there, and we'll do our thing over here. This is the line that you do not cross. This gives everybody an equal space to have their own freedoms. What is wrong with that? That's called the law, isn't it?
Well, the law can be wrong. The law can be right, it can be wrong. In this case, I think it's wrong for the simple reason that if you say we're going to have this space where no one may engage in the kind of activity that we're talking about, so offering help to women or providing an alternative perspective, what you're actually doing is chilling speech on the one hand, because the idea there is the speech is there to help the women who are going in. It's not just there to broadcast the time against abortion.
You think you're helping, but you might not be helping. But Peter, you might not be helping.
Can I just say, if you go to the Be Here For Me campaign, which is a group of women who were helped by these kind of protests and these kind of actions, then I think you'll find plenty of evidence of women who have been served precisely by this kind of freedom of speech.
Well, listen, Peter, it helped me.
That's what's being stopped here.
Peter, it helped me because I didn't have the abortion I was going to have because somebody was out there. But I don't think that was bad. They weren't in my face, and I'm glad that I was influenced by that. Peter Williams, thank you very much. Lovely to talk to. He's the Director for Family Education Trust and a former executive for the Office for the Right to Life.
And much more on this throughout the day on GB News. But very serious news this morning. So this is something to cheer you up, hopefully. If you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
After some very strong winds in recent days in the Canaries, things looking a little calmer as we head into next week. Plenty of sunshine over the central Med. There's a weather front approaching Madeira. That'll bring some rain later on through the weekends. Plenty of showers over northern Spain on Saturday, but much of the south of Spain dry and sunny. Some of those showers could affect Barcelona. Plenty of showers across Greece and Turkey as well. Quite a sunny Saturday for Italy. Temperatures rising in Barcelona by Sunday before turning colder next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Bit of a grey, damp start for parts of Wales and southwest England, but the sunny skies are returning, and for most it is another fine day. Quite warm inland, warmest day of the year so far, but it is quite cool on some coasts. High pressure is bringing the fine weather, but it's also bringing this easterly breeze, which will bring a chillier feel on some of these North Sea coasts again, and quite a bit of cloud at times across parts of northeast Scotland. Quite a lot of cloud to start the day for Wales and southwest England. That is moving away, maybe just providing 1 or 2 outbreaks of rain across southern parts of Northern Ireland before here too scooting away. In the sunshine in the south, 21, 22, maybe even up to 23, but single figures across the far northeast. And that colder air is going to head its way a little further south through the night and as we go through the weekend, bringing, again, a fair bit of cloud. So, yes, it feels quite chilly in the northeast of Scotland, but still a very pleasant evening on the west coast of Scotland. Should see some sunshine to end the day across much of Northern Ireland. A fine end to the day for most of England and Wales as well. That breeze, though, noticeable on the North Norfolk coast there up through Lincolnshire, whereas further west it'll still feel quite mild. Now, as we go through the night, temperatures will fall everywhere and the cloud will increase across these eastern areas, spreading in again from the North Sea, fed by this increasing breeze. So that's going to make for a murky old start to the weekend across the Midlands, much of eastern England. Pockets of frost likely through some sheltered glens of eastern Scotland, but temperatures holding up with the breeze across the southwest. That breeze will again be noticeable on Saturday, if anything, strengthening here, and it will be a drab old start for a good chunk of England and eastern Scotland. The cloud will melt back to the coast. Some parts of the North Sea may stay murky, but for most it is a sunny Saturday, not quite as warm as today, and certainly you will notice that breeze in the south, particularly so also on the east coast.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 11:52. Now, as Christians across the world observe Lent, we are bringing you daily reflections from ministers around the United Kingdom. So here is today's message.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
I'm Reverend Mike, welcome to St Leonard's Church. Cancel culture is nothing new. Every society has its respectable sorts and its not so respectable sorts. And Jesus, there was something about Jesus that was just a magnet to those they called sinners. He connected with them, he received them, he spoke to their very core. Meeting Jesus transformed their lives. But the respectable classes, they murmured, they scoffed. How can he associate with them? Doesn't he know what they've done? Maybe we imagine that we would never think of others in those aloof, Pharisaical terms. But if we're honest, we're all capable of thinking that if there is a God, he welcomes everyone except that sort of person. Who do you consider to be beyond the pale? Christ loves them. Jesus receives anyone as they are, and then he begins the process of transforming them to be like him. No one, not you, nor that person that you like least in the whole world, is beyond the reach of God's love and his transforming grace.
That was lovely, and thank you for all your lovely messages about the abortion that I didn't go through, thank goodness. This is Britain's Newsroom. I'm back tomorrow. Enjoy.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More sunshine to come for most places today. Feeling quite warm in that sunshine, although there is a cool breeze blowing, and that cool breeze making it feel quite cold on some of these North Sea coasts. We've seen a few showers overnight across parts of Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a possibility of 1 or 2 through the morning, and it is quite cloudy across parts of the west as well, but that cloud should tend to clear away, and any showers certainly disappearing. And then it's a dry day with plenty of sunshine. It will be quite fresh on these North Sea coasts with the breeze picking up, but inland temperatures getting up to 21, maybe 22 degrees Celsius. Feeling a little cooler than that, though, because of that breeze. But for much of the south, the warmest day of the week. It will turn a little cooler because colder air is pushing down across the northeast through this evening. That will be quite noticeable, that wind again through the evening time, despite many places having a lovely look